Africa should not be a monopoly for any other country, not for China, not for anyone else. Africa is for the African people. And the taste of the pudding is always, you should not be a judge yourself. You go to African country and ask them whether they like building a road, whether they like building a gymnasium, etc. That is the only truth, because don't be lectured by other countries about what value African countries should have. The African value will be different.
Mr. Victor Gao is a Chinese lawyer and a businessman. He has made a comparable observation about Western countries, especially US foreign policies for Africa against Chinese foreign policies for Africa. I want us to watch this particular video. I will be back.
Allow me to mention one thing. Before China's extensive engagement with Africa, Africa itself is a forgotten continent. That's not what Victor Gao said. That's generally being said by Western countries. Africa, after decolonization, was more or less the forgotten continent. Western countries did not want to engage it for whatever reason. China went in. China treated every African country as brother and sister. And China really invested hugely in Africa. Now, many other countries are talking about engaging with Africa, including the United States, many European countries, India, for example. The more the better, because Africa should not be a monopoly for any other country, not for China, not for anyone else. Africa is for the African people. And the taste of the pudding is always, you should not be a judge yourself. You go to African country and ask them whether they like building a road, whether they like building a gymnasium, etc. That is the only truth, because don't be lectured by other countries about what value African countries should have. The African value will be different from many other continents, for example. The other countries in other continents will need to help the African country to build up their infrastructure, to build their manufacturing capabilities. And that is the only goal for China. China has no colonial objective for African countries. China is so far away physically from Africa. Whatever China is doing the same in ASEAN countries, in Latin American countries, for example. And this is a sign of China's philosophy. That is, if we build our pillars of transformation, we want to share that with you. If we believe building road is the only way out, we help you to build the road.
Georgetown University. My question is simple. Are you not being hypocritical, Mr. Gao? Why I'm asking, you're saying that, okay, in Africa, you're allowing some buildings, some infrastructure to be there. I'm from Zimbabwe. We have the second largest lithium reserves, but we're at the brink of losing ownership of all of these lithium reserves just because China built a parliament for my country. So if you're saying that you are promoting the sovereignty of nations, of countries, but you're taking our own parliament away, and let's say the airport in Kenya, for example, are you not being hypocritical?
Let me be very blunt. Zimbabwe is a great country. You had your election several years ago, and the presidential candidate was very much against China. He's elected as the president, and once he's in his office, he changed his mind, because he knows for sure that for Zimbabwe development, China is the main contributor for the Zimbabwean economic development. If you do not agree with me, go back to your country, talk to your government, and check out over the past 30 years, which country has invested most heavily in your great country. I know Zimbabwe well. China has dealt with Zimbabwe governments for several decades, including your great presidents, for example. And I would say China-Zimbabwe economic cooperation has helped the economic transformation in Zimbabwe, in building up infrastructure facilities and in building up manufacturing capabilities of your country. That is the truth, if I may tell you. I think that is the only truth. Development is the hard truth. Thank you, brother.
Go to Mr. Gao one more time. So you said that we're not supposed to be lecturing others and we're supposed to go with our own identity because the truth is subjective from one country to another, right? But at the very least, we talked about the weaponization of human rights. But there are very basic fundamentals when we're talking about human rights, and it has been addressed multiple times. how are you addressing the one state nation that you are talking about, which is something that was created by us and systems, in comparison to religions and traditions which were by higher ups that were not created by us? How are you giving importance to one state nations compared to that?
Thank you very much. When we talk about human rights in the world of today, I think the most important human rights are to protect the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people. No country has any excuse to deny the Palestinian people their right of existence, their right to their own country, their right to their own culture. And if anyone comes to you and say, I'm a friend of your country, I'm a friend of Islam, of Muslim countries, etc., but I do not respect the Palestinian people's rights, he is a false friend. That's number one. Now, separately, you quoted J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is my classmate at Yale Law School. I was class of 1993. He was class of 2013. The quote he said is completely agreeable with me. China builds, America should build too. The United States should not just lecture others as if they have the totality of the truth. I think the United States is in a transformative age. It's launching a revolution against itself. This should be something very educational for all of us. I personally hope the United States will become great again 4 years from now. But where is the verdict? The verdict is still out there. We still need to urge our American friends to really work. And development is the hard truth. It applies to China for the past 46 years. It will apply to the United States in the coming 4 years. Thank you.
One thing we should all have in mind is none of these so-called African friends, most of the time the Western countries, none of them have Africa in their own interest. Every country is fighting for their survival. That is the fact. Every country, whether it's China, whether it's US, whether it's UK, every country is fighting for their own survival. But most of the times, Africans, we behave like we need them than they need us. We need them than they need us. But if we should have been truthful to ourselves, and if we should have sat down and think through, we will realize that majority of these countries, Western countries, they need us more than we need them, because we have every resources, but because of we have puppets as our leaders. So most of the times they are not thinking ahead of time. We are always thinking through our pockets. We are always thinking through corruption lines. We are always thinking in a way. We are not building generational development. We are just building something that won't last. And at the end of the day, it will cost the continent to always beg for money. That is what we have been doing. Because if you do some comparison analysis, you realize that African leaders has let the continent down, and you can't blame the leaders, because the systems that has been put in place for them to come and lead, most of the times when they come, that system is already breeding corruption. It's breeding corruption. And if we are going to also compare the invasion of China and invasion of the Western countries, as Mr. Gao said, Chinese are not coming to Africa to colonize us. Chinese are here for business. Business that will also benefit them more than Africa. Yeah, we are aware of that. China comes in as a barter traders. They comes in as a barter traders. Okay, we have realized you need roads. So let's help you build roads, and in return, you are going to give us your resources. Either lithium, either gold, either oil. Chinese are using that as a leverage to also get hold of our resources. That has been the truth. Chinese comes in, do barter trade. Okay, we have realized you need an airport. You need an ultra-modern airport. Okay, let's construct this airport for you, and in return, we are going to take this. In return, we are going to take. So I think Chinese way of invading in Africa is not diabolic like the Western countries. The Western countries want to benefit from your resources and also find a way of imposing their policies, imposing their values, imposing their culture on you. And that has been what has happening in centuries. That is why all our culture is in the verge of wiping out. African culture is in the verge of wiping out. That is why every country, every other continent have their own religion. When you go to China, they have their own religion. When you go to India, they have their own religion. When you go to all these Arabic countries, they have their own religion. But when you come to Africa, we don't have our own religion. We have been divided to be either Muslims or to be either Christians. When you ask them, where are African religion? We don't have some. It is now people are trying to push African spiritualism. So our system has been influenced by the Western countries, and it's also involved with our school systems, our educational systems, and also our our educational systems, our religion systems, and also the way we do our things. Even fashion, everything has been influenced by the Western countries. So Chinese are not coming in Africa to impose their values on us. Chinese are not coming to tell them, hey, you have to speak our language or we are not going to help you. For them, they are in for barter trade. And if they come for barter trade and you think you cannot do it, they don't put gun on you. They don't come and put their military bases in your country to threaten you, to threaten your leaders, to accept their value by force. They don't threaten you to either you join IMF or your economy will collapse. Chinese are not doing that. Chinese are in for business, which I have already told you. Even though they are in for business, they are doing things to serve their own interest because every country is fighting for their survival. So it's up to Africans to also use what we have to leverage for development. We don't have to be giving our resources to other countries whilst we sit down going broke and struggle. That is the fact. That's why I say some of the things Mr. Gao said, I agree with him, but not everything he said. Because Chinese also have their own interest, and their own interest don't favor Africa. It's up to Africans to also use what we have to also fight for our survival. But we are not doing that. They have been able to position puppets in the helms of affairs. They have been able to put puppets in the important institutions so that they can finish Africa, and that is what we have been facing for a very long time. Please join my Telegram group by going to the description box. Click on the Telegram link. It will take you to the platform. Join us for us to discuss about the well-being of Africa and Africans in diaspora. If today is your first time coming to this channel, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification button so that anytime I upload any great content, you will be notified. I'm always your guy, Digraft Amwakon. Thanks for watching.